Afternoon, YouTube. As you can see, today I'm going to be doing a video on cleaning my Glock 21. As you see some of the materials here, I'm a little different on how I clean. I use simple green to just get rid of all the dirt, grime, built up oil, gunpowder. I've used this since I got my first gun, which was the Glock here, on every single firearm I have owned and came across, from polymers to wood stocks to all different types of metals, aluminums, alloys, and simple green has never damaged any of the parts, springs, any of the materials. I've never had a negative effect to the product, so that's what I use. It's not harsh on the area I'm working on. It's not bad for my health. It's not harsh on my hands, so I use it for all those purposes. Oil I use is break free. There we go. CLP I've been using for the same amount of time I've been using the simple green, and I've never had any issues with my gun parts seizing up or just no ill effects from the oil. So that's the oil I use. I use hot water and some water with a toothbrush. I use just some hot water and a toothbrush to clean it out, scrub it down. If required, I'll grab a brush if I need to scrub down a wire, some kind of metal part that has to maybe take down oil or residue or whatever. So I'll begin cleaning. Obviously the gun's empty. I usually don't do safety checks because I know myself the gun is empty. There's no reason for me to show everybody else the same thing I already know. It's just a redundancy. Anyhow, this gun is not very dirty. I usually keep it by my bed, so by my bed or by my side, depending on where I am in a house. So it's just got maybe some dust on it from wherever I may have laid it at one point or another. So it's just not really all that dirty. I'm not seeing very much, if any, dust or oil buildup or anything in here. I'll probably still be taking out some of these parts just to give it a once over, just in case. Barrel usually receives the most dirt because the exposed portion here usually collects it. The oil will normally attract some dust as well. Blows in underneath the frame. I don't normally clean this plug. So you grab my screwdriver. Alright. Those come off. I need to clean the end plate. Never anything really there. I'll clean the spring, striker, firing pin, and the spring. I'll clean that with the I always clean my extractor and the plunger. I always clean the frame. That usually does get dirty, the slide I mean. Yeah, what the hell. I'll clean some of these as well. Just get my disassembly tool. I'm sure plenty of you have seen all of these videos before from 101 other people cleaning their gun. I simply wanted to show my method of using simple green to clean it off. I haven't seen anybody on YouTube do that, although I'm sure plenty have. Yes. Sorry about that. Looks like my battery crapped out on me. So I'll push out that one. No, it feels a little stuck in there. Normally comes out easier than that. clean that off. I don't need to clean that. The frame looks fine. I'm not going to touch that today. These, on the other hand, usually get built up oil on them, so let me just disassemble this. Clean the back of the bar off, and I'll clean this off as well. Get that built up oil off of it. That don't get cleaned. Alright. Now the normal process is just spray it on. Over the parts that I need. Actually, I forgot to disassemble the striker pin, firing pin. Didn't remind me, YouTube. You didn't remind me. Now, if these are actually dirty, I'd let them sit for a few minutes, or even possibly an hour, depending on how bad it was. Gun powder residue baked on, or maybe really old oil and grime. And I'm back again. You know, these cameras are pretty tricky when you pop in a uncharged battery. Swapping out an uncharged battery for an uncharged battery isn't probably the brightest thing. But I just tried that, so tip to anybody else, don't do that. It doesn't work. Anyways, back to where I was. I sprayed everything. Nothing needs to sit because nothing is caked on. Unlike the AR gas tube I did earlier. That required a brass brush as well. This won't require anything. I'll just put a little simple green onto the brush. And then brush everything over just to get off the old oil. Get off any dirt, debris. It's going to mainly be dust. I have a pretty dusty home, so this isn't going to need much work. Oil and everything will come off pretty quickly. If I had to worry about any carbon foul up, I would be using swabs to get through the barrel. This gun hasn't been to the range in a while, so I'm not worried about there being anything in there. Any debris that is in there, like dust or anything, would have been washed out with the simple green. And will be washed out again once I dip it in the bath. So in it goes. All the oil gone. Get this off. Again, none of these parts are going to need any real scrubbing. Just a simple once over just to get off any dust and old oil. Even when I've taken this gun apart right after a range visit, or even a day after if I forget, there's never any issue with buildup sticking onto the gun. I've fired some pretty dirty ammo like wolf ammo, which I don't suggest to anybody. I've only had bad experience with wolf ammo myself. It's literally the only ammo I've had issues with ever. Not to say that I'm an expert on ammo. I've probably only fired 2 or 3 brands. But the 2 or 3 brands that I've fired, only one issue I've gotten is a failure to fire from wolf. So I avoid wolf at all costs. There's a free tip there for you. Again, the slide's not dirty. I'm just getting off the old oil. If this has been sitting around longer or gone to the range or anything, then I would have scored it down this too and gotten every hole filled with a simple green. But as it stands, this thing was hardly dirty at all. I just dipped that in the water as well. There's no need to worry about getting water into certain holes and don't get water here. No, you can put water wherever the hell you want, just get it all back out, as well as the simple green. Dry it all off before you reassemble, and make sure that you got it all out before you go firing it, even before you go re-oiling it for that matter. Now I just make sure it's all rinsed off, got the simple green off. Believe me, you'll know when it's all off. Most of these parts will have a completely bare metal feel to them, which, unless you use this method or another really good cleaner, you probably won't be used to. I know the first time I used it, I definitely was shocked to feel the clean steel feel, whatever you want to call it. That one still feels like it's got quite a bit of simple green on it. Probably just the water. So let that dry out for now. I learned this method from a master gunsmith named Bob Dunlap, or Robert Dunlap, off of one of his AGI, American Gunsmithing Institute videos. I'll put a link in the description to their site where you can buy their DVDs. Ever since watching his video before I bought this very first gun, I just was impressed with his method of cleaning and what he used as materials. Now, I don't follow his way of re-oiling a product because he just squirts it all over every part. I follow the manufacturer's detail on how to re-oil a part. It's pretty simple. You only need about probably 6 drops of oil total, if that, for the entire firearm. It varies between manufacturer, of course. For instance, my AR, I would not even bother trying to count the amount of drops I use on it. I don't soak it in oil, but just requires a lot more oil. Anyone that owns one would know that. So yeah, now we're on to the drying process. Just grab a clean towel, hand towel, whatever. I just happen to have these shop towels just for this purpose. Most of these won't require anything more than just a quick wipe down. The barrel takes a little more effort, not much. And the slide definitely takes some thinking outside the box if you don't own compressed air, or you don't want to stick parts into the oven, which with a Glock I wouldn't suggest doing that. I'm not quite sure. I'm sure the sights are metal, maybe just with a coating, or maybe that's just the look of them. Maybe that is metal. I don't know. Not 100% sure. That's why I wouldn't suggest doing it. Simply because I've never done it, so I won't advise anyone else to do it. But this is a pretty simple process. All these are already done. Barrel, pretty easy exterior. I usually just cover one end and blow into the other, get all the water out. And believe it or not, this process works pretty well. I don't know if you can see in there too well. Maybe I'm just retarded and don't know how to aim a barrel down. There we go. Pretty clean, and definitely looks very dry. I can't see any droplets of water of any kind in there. It likely dried before I even did it, but I have found water in there before, and usually just blowing it out with my mouth, covering one end with a towel, does the trick. So far, I haven't found any use for compressed air for cleaning. Although I'm sure it would still speed up the process quite a bit on a lot of guns. For instance, on this slide here, this does usually take a couple minutes to dry off by air and by actually wiping down. But once again, you get that really nice clean metal feel. This one requires quite a bit more effort to dry off properly. Normally I would just let this thing air dry for a little while before I even attempt to put it together. I may end up doing that still now. Depends on how well I can get it and how much time I feel like spending on it. I'm pretty satisfied with this. There's no more water blowing out of it, so it's usually a good sign. And again, I've used this process since I've owned this gun, and it's never once caused me any issues with any of my guns, so it's pretty dry. In that tube there, it looks like it could be a little damp. Let's get a punch and shove down the cloth further. Get it further down the hole, protecting the gun from the punch, of course, as best as I can. Just twist it around a little. That should get, at the very minimum, 90-95% of the water out of the gun. And if I was doing this for a customer, since I do gunsmithing out of my home, I think I would be a little more meticulous, as I have been with the rest of them. But these are mine. I'm not as nitpicky with mine. I know how much I can and cannot leave in the gun. I know by the time I actually take it to a range, it's going to be well out of the system. So there's no issues there. Now on to re-oiling. I normally have some cotton swabs around here. It's not the normal ones I use, but these will work. As you notice, again, I'll note that I didn't run any swabs through the barrel, but that's because the gun hasn't been to the range in, well, several months. Somebody's been lazy at taking their guns to the range. But we won't be mentioning names. So I just put a drop or two on the barrel. I normally use my fingers for this. There's no reason not to. Just a simple light coat. Doesn't require anything more than that. Now I'll take a little excess, if I can find the bottle wherever I put it. A little bit out on there. It's not a little bit, not enough, so I'll just put a little bit more. And I'll get it up here where the slide and the barrel meet, just to help transition back and forth a little better. Not really required under there in front of the lugs, because that's just where the guide rod goes. But again, it's not going to harm anything. I always cover both lug spot areas, whatever. Lug spot areas, you heard me. The recess next to the lugs here. This slides on the locking block, so that does need some oil. You want to get it everywhere, but you don't need to worry about lathering it on. In fact, you shouldn't. All that's going to do is welcome more dirt and debris to stick to your gun. The only gun I would actually quote-unquote lather on would be the AR. And even then I try to do it sparingly. And this gun is clean, so I'm not going to worry about grabbing a new brush every time. Well, this area rubs two different spots. Right here it rubs against this piece right there, and then up on the ridge here it rubs on that same piece but up on the ridge of it. If you understood that, then you're right with me. If not, don't worry, nothing important. Just oil where I'm oiling. Follow that and you'll be good. Or follow the manual that came with the gun. That's all I'm doing. For oiling on the small parts, that's it. The rest of the oiling pertains to the slide here. I always oil under here. This is called a rub area. Whether or not my barrel actually rubs under here, I don't know. For the amount of rounds I put through it, which I really don't remember how many. Not a whole hell of a lot, but plenty enough to, if there's a rub area, it would show. And I don't know about you, but I don't really see a rub area. I see a mark where it's just right there. But it doesn't look like a rub area, it just looks like an area that's, I don't know. I'll leave that to your imagination, what the hell happened there. That's enough of the stick. Now you gotta actually use a couple drops from the bottle. Just take it, put one drop right down the slide groove, and then I usually just let it coax all the way down. Coax. It's another word for coat, in case you didn't know that. I just decided to make it that. I usually just tap it a couple times, make it go quicker. There's nothing funner than watching oil slip down the slide of a gun. While I'm doing that, I'll wipe off any excess oil from the top here. There will be some buildup down at the bottom of the, or front of the slide. Once it finally reaches down there, what you can see is slowly but surely going. It's always fun. This is by far the funnest part. Just watching it drip. Now we're going to begin to get some buildup as the rest of it can trickle down. Right in there. You see it starting. I'll just take the edge of a shop towel, paper towel, cotton swab, whatever the hell you got, and dry the excess off. A little more will build up. You can dry it off by the time the second rail has been oiled, if I can get this in the camera. Now, repeat process. This one's going a little faster. You always gotta watch it right on that spot. Just tilt it on a different angle so it'll make it through. Continue down the slide. I'm assuming I gave this side a little more. It's going a bit quicker. Doesn't really matter. Nothing's really going to remain besides what's needed on the interior of the slide anyway, so not a big deal. I think it's all down at the bottom now, so I'll just wipe out the edge. Get the rest of this excess oil out, and then we're ready for assembly. Alright, good enough for me, so it's good enough for you. We'll start with the frame, or the slide, since that's what I'm actually holding. We'll find the parts of the striker. We'll find that. There it is. Give me that. Alright, this is my method of putting the striker assembly back together. Slip the end piece through. Put the spring on top. A lot of people I see or hear about, they stuff or even shove, if you know English. Shove something up inside here to keep this from falling down, which I guess you could do, especially if you got shop towels or whatever laying around. That's all I do. I just take the back of this, where the striker assembly goes, put it backwards so that the edge of the striking pin is, firing pin is right there, and then press down on it. And grab the end caps, end cap keepers, whatever. I am not a wordsmith. I sound downright retarded sometimes. And of course, the one time I do this on camera, the one time I actually struggle. Surprise, surprise, right? There we go. When you become as proficient as I am at that method, you'll be just as quick. Hopefully quicker. So now it just begins the regular assembly. I'm sure none of you are watching my video for this part, so feel free to switch over and see what Team Soch is doing, or Nut and Fancy ammo channel, the armory channel. Come back when I'm done putting this together to see how I wrap it up. We'll stick with that don't ask, don't tell. I won't ask if you left, and you don't tell me if you left. And we're all done there. Slides back together. Now for the frame. Let's see here. Oh, it'll help if I start with this and this. Taking this off is always tricky. Putting on. Oh, almost said it's never an issue, and I almost had one right there. Almost proved myself a liar. Okay, put this one back here. The main pin through. Like a glove. Never really had any issues with these pins. Never had issues with pins, period, until I got my AR. Then I found out what all the fuss was about when trying to disassemble or reassemble a gun. I advise you to never take off your ejection port cover or your takedown pins, since both are a pain in the ass to deal with. Slipping around my hands. And as fast as I do this, you would think I've done it a few times, huh? Don't be fooled. Alright. Function testing. Alright. There you go. YouTube gun cleaning video on my Glock. There's still some more mods to come. I have got the extended slide stop lever here. That definitely helps with my small feminine hands. I can actually reach it without readjusting my grip. I still can't touch the mag release without canting the gun. So I will be buying the extended mag release as soon as I find one I like. As you can see, like just about everything else, I have my skull everywhere I can put it. We'll be buying Punisher mag plates as well eventually. They're not that big of a deal, especially since my mag plates are a pain in the ass to get off. But that is my video on cleaning the Glock. I will see you guys next week. Like the videos if you like them. Comment, give me your opinions, thoughts, concerns, gripes, complaints, bitching, whatever the hell you want to say. Let me hear it. RE out.